coat over her blouse and jeans. She had told herself she had chosen this hotel because of its proximity to the American embassy. It was nothing to do with the park across the road. That's what she had told herself. But Ritan Park was her last connection to him. A place where the death of a man had first brought them together and in the end forced them apart. Just one more failure in a life that seemed destined always to let her down. She lifted her umbrella and closed the door firmly behind her, resolved finally to act on a decision she had delayed for too long. On the 4th floor, an elderly woman with brassy lacquered hair and too much makeup stepped onto the elevator. Margaret saw that she was wearing a name badge on the lapel of her blue suit jacket. Dot McKinley, it read. Margaret registered some surprise. Mostly the Ritan Hotel was filled with the wealthy but unsophisticated wives of Russian traders, desperate to spend their rubles before the exchange rate fell any further. The woman drew painted lips back across long, slightly yellowed teeth in what she clearly imagined was a smile. "Where are y'all from?" she drawled. Margaret's heart sank. "The 6th floor," she said, keeping her eyes firmly fixed on the illuminated numbers above the door, willing them to descend more quickly. But Dot just laughed heartily, as if she had enjoyed the joke. "I do like a sense of humor," she said. "Y'all from the north, that's for sure. We're from the south, Louisiana. Only thing further south than us is the Gulf of Mexico." She laughed again, as if demonstrating that southerners could be just as amusing as northerners. "Old Dot's traveling grannies, that's what they call us. We've been all over. Just our luck to choose China during the rice crisis. Don't you just get sick of those noodles?" She leaned in confidentially. "And if I'd known this hotel was going to be so full of goddamn Ruskies, I'd have booked us in somewheres else." She nodded emphatically. "But it's great to know there's a fellow American on board, even if you do come from the 6th floor." She grinned. "Why don't y'all join us for a drink tonight?" Margaret glanced at her. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," she said. "I'm leaving tomorrow." The doors opened on the ground floor as Dot was about to express her disappointment, and Margaret hurried away past a group of a dozen or so elderly ladies all sporting name badges. She heard Dot greeting them with, "Hey, you'll never guess who that was." No, Margaret thought as she pushed through glass doors and out into the sticky, warm rain. They never would. Not in a million years. The 2 security men at the gate glowered at her as she opened her umbrella on the way out. It was only in the last couple of weeks that Western newsmen had stopped hanging about the gate in the hope of getting photographs or an interview. The security guards in their brown uniforms, privately hired by the hotel, had been forced to take their duties seriously, instead of sitting around all day smoking and looking important. They didn't much like Margaret. She ran the gauntlet of some half-hearted stall owners, who thought she might be Russian and interested in the furs that hung row upon row under dripping canopies. But most of them knew her by now, and didn't give her a second glance, sitting folded up on tiny stools, nursing jars of cold green tea, smoking acrid-smelling cigarettes and spitting noisily on the sidewalk. Everywhere you looked here, the names of shops and restaurants were written in the distinctive Cyrillic Russian alphabet. You could almost believe you were in some seedy corner of Moscow, if it wasn't for the Chinese faces. Someone had lit a brazier, in preparation for an early lunch, and smoke mingled with the mist and rain. Margaret almost stepped into the path of several bicycles, alerted only at the last moment by a flurry of bells. Oriental faces glared at her from glistening hooded capes. She grasped the railing at the edge of the pavement and held tightly, overcome by a moment of giddiness. She breathed deeply and steadied herself. She had not realized until now just how stressful this was going to be. To delay the moment, she took the route through the park, although she would have denied if asked that she was procrastinating. But she knew immediately it was a mistake. The place was too full of memories and regrets. She hurried past small damp groups of people practicing Tai Chi under the trees, and out through the south gate. Again she took a circuitous route along Guanghua Road and down Silk Street, past the new visa block in the Bruce compound of the American Embassy. Women in white masks and blue smocks swept wet leaves from the gutters with old-fashioned brooms. Dismal marketeers sat under the shelter.